Hi, my friends. My name is Ryan Freeman. Welcome to my book review of D.H. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers. This is a novel written about 100 years ago, give or take a few years, written by a genius, an English genius who grew up the son of a coal miner who died at the age of 44, but before he died, going from poverty to world-famous genius author, probably one of the most influential English authors of the early 20th century. He is still adored to this day, although he suffered sort of a loss of reputation and fame, I believe, sort of when feminism really got kicking in the 60s or 70s. I don't know that much about that, but I do know that probably one of the reasons some people like D.H. Lawrence is that he doesn't pull punches. He says what he feels, what he believes. He'll criticize science when the whole world worships science. He'll say, this is what a woman is, this is what a man is, without asking, people in gender departments, gender studies, whether or not that's true. He just says what he actually thinks. He says what he actually feels. And when he wrote, apparently from one of his good friends, Aldous Huxley, when he wrote in a passion, more than 12 hours at a time sometimes. And when he made mistakes, he didn't just go back and fix it. He ripped it up and started anew. He was a man who was possessed by his daimon, that inner genius, that thing within him that was pushing him to get out his stories. I'm not an expert, so I can only give you my understanding of D.H. Lawrence. I find him a very fascinating guy. He died at 44. There were a lot of troubles in his life. But I also find that sometimes the people with the most troubles have the most to say. And so Sons and Lovers is his semi-autobiographical novel where he writes about a family where the father's a coal miner, the mother has sort of a very rocky relationship with her husband, and over the course of especially the first few chapters, but the entire book, you really get a feel of what it's like to be a woman trapped in a marriage that is not matching your expectations. He also explains how it even came about. Sometimes, we marry someone based on a feeling, based on a passion, but then later on, as more and more things come to light, as the relationship develops, we find that it was not what we thought it would be. So a lot about sort of the estrangement between the mother and the father, also about the very deep connection that the mother has with her children, but particularly the two eldest boys, William and Paul. And one of I'm not going to say, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's some death and tragedy and also good fortune that comes to the family. And this book deals with how they deal with that. What happens when you lose someone that you are incredibly close to? D.H. Lawrence really puts you inside the skin of these characters. He even goes into the depths of their soul. Even goes into the depths of their soul as their soul is being twisted and torn apart. Twisted in different directions. My mother, my lover. My mother, my lover. I'm a son and a lover. All right? Thus the name of the title. There's a lot of lightness in it. I've sort of given you some of the heavier themes, but there's a lot of lightness, looking for flowers, spending easy time in easy company. Sort of the old things that people found a lot of pleasure in, whereas today, how many people really go out and fill their hearts just by looking at flowers? If you're out looking at flowers, you're probably trying to take an Instagram shot. people were simpler back then, but they were not less deep. I think in many ways today, this is my own 2 cents. I'm not saying that D.H. Lawrence would say it, but people in the past, people who had tough lives, people who lived closer to nature, they were deeper than the people of today, and life was more raw. And one of the things that D.H. Lawrence does rail against in many of his books and many of his writings is sort of the industrialization of America, or not America, the West and the world in general, which he felt, I believe, was dehumanizing. I haven't read all of his work, so don't quote me on everything, but you definitely get a sense that he was dissatisfied with quote-unquote progress that was not necessarily having the best effect on humans. And the people in this book, there's an assortment of characters, characters who are more spiritual, characters that are more sensual, characters that are easygoing, characters that are very tough. You'll definitely find the whole gamut of human personality within these pages. It's a fairly long book, actually a little more than 400 pages, divided in chapters with the title of the chapter giving you an intimation of what it's going to be about. And sometimes I don't like that. Sometimes I like to be surprised. Sort of the title of the chapters really sort of let me know what it was going to be about more than I normally like. But there's enough surprises in the nuance of the relationships and the events that take place that there's plenty of surprises. I like to underline and highlight and even draw things in the margin when I come across things that are meaningful to me or are insightful. And I found that it was really tough to do it with this because there was so much. There was so much that I found absolutely jaw-dropping, beautiful, or poignant. Life's complicated. Relationships are complicated. When you look at your relationship with your mother or with your brother or with your sister or with your lover, when you really get into the deep crevices of it and the rich emotion that exists and the history, it's hard to put all of that into words. Most of us probably fail. We read psychology books and we get these systematized answers, but when you get it in a story, and written from a man who was very insightful when it came to feelings and emotion, and how he handles those feelings and emotion, how the various characters handle it, the various conflicts that come up. What happens when a wife tries to change her husband against his nature? What happens when a husband refuses to admit he wronged his wife and his conscience nags at him and he takes up alcohol? What happens to a man's soul? What happens to a son when he sees his mother's health wither? What happens to a lover when the man she loves cares more about his mom than her? All of these things come up in this novel. And besides that, I found the setting, sort of poverty in the English countryside. I found that charming. I know that poverty is not charming, and one of the first themes that you will come across in the very first chapter, I believe, is the feelings that Mrs. Morrill, one of the main characters, has when she realizes that she's sort of stuck in this unhappy marriage with a bun in the oven in poverty with a husband who's drinking. What happens when you feel stuck in life? What happens when rays of sunshine break through those dark clouds and hope is drawing you forth into your destiny? It's a lot. And I cannot do it justice. D.H. Lawrence is, and I'm not just saying this because I'm doing this book review, D.H. Lawrence is a master, and he's probably one of my favorite authors that I've recently discovered. And he's been famous and he's been around, but it was only within this past 6 months to a year that I even started to find his novels and read them. And I'm lucky because there's many, many more novels that I plan to read, and I will bring those book reviews to you as well. Thank you for watching this book review. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that you click and watch my other videos. I hope that you like this video, subscribe it, and share it with your friends. And I will see you soon. My name is Ryan. Bye.